What is the most disturbing fetish someone had that you know? My ex used to ask to put his head between my legs while I took a shit so he could watch. What's worse, however, is how this fetish supposedly developed. From constantly having his 3 younger sisters joke about poop skeptical, I never indulged BTW. Oculophilia. Way into licking people's eyeballs. Throwing up on people. It will never leave my mind. They had a fetish for shoving anything rocky, rocks, pieces of concrete, brick, up there as in filmed it to discover new techniques and what other rocks could I use. Nope. Worked with an investment banker who was attracted to homeless women with drug problems. He would actively frequent bad areas to pick up these types. Never married, doesn't do long-term relationships, just likes dating homeless addicts. He does genuinely care about them, but once they don't need his support he moves on. Often talks about how great his exes are doing. Oddly wholesome, served with these 2 guys unfortunately. One had a fetish for licking someone's shit. The other had a fetish, if you can call it that, for sabotaging his Johnny, so they failed upon organizing. And here I was thinking I was a weirdo for liking armpits. What was the hottest thing someone said to you? Anytime a man moans or is vocal in general during X, I melt. We can either go out for dinner at 5, or you can F me and we will get there at 5:30ish. We will get there at 5:05. My wife and I were out watching a band. They were really good, place was packed. But she had gotten dressed up for it and looked amazing. After maybe a half hour I turned to her and said, "Wanna go home and F?" She said yes, then grabbed my arm and said yes. It was the second yes that got me. We picked up our stuff and started to leave and saw the people behind us smiling. They had obviously heard us, and she clearly didn't care, which was also really hot. On a Tinder date, and I offered to buy the next round of drinks and she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Sure, or we could go back to mine and I can sit on your face." We left immediately. Not something someone said, but my ex would sometimes just get on her knees and open her mouth whilst giving me that look when she wanted to give me head. So hot. Damn son. The only thing my ex ever sucked was the joy out of life.
What's your secret that could literally ruin your life if it came out? I run a cake business. I charge people hundreds for wedding cakes. Every last one is made using Pillsbury cake mix I buy for $1 a box at Walmart. I suck at baking. Every time I've ever tried to make a cake from scratch it sucked. But baking is like my whole deal. My friends all call me the cake girl. It's like my whole life is a lie. People compliment my cakes all the time, telling me it's so much better than box mix cake. Well, guess what? For $1 they too can make a cake just as delicious. I love cake decorating. I make all of the frostings and fondant from scratch. I just hate baking fucking cakes. No one knows about this except my husband. Even my best friends think I fucking slave over the oven mixing and baking these damn cakes. I have been doing this for years. If anyone knew, my business and reputation would be in the toilet for sure. It's something boys can never tell their girlfriends. I actually watched this episode without you when you passed out last night. That you wouldn't date her if she was a worm. How much I actually spend on my hobbies. I want my hoodie back. What I'm really thinking about, since you would never believe me if I said I was thinking about how bike tires are made. I just know this is going to be on a TikTok with Minecraft gameplay or Subway Surfers in the background with trashy lo-fi music. They'll put this comment in for the meta joke of it and use it to farm comments about how funny it was to put this one in there. Same with this one.
No.
What's a fun NSFW history fact? Vikings were indeed banging up and down the British coastline like pop culture portrays them. But unlike pop culture imagery of them grabbing women out of their houses and carrying them off to rape, we have writings from the period of British men complaining about Vikings seducing British women using their unfair advantage of regular bathing and grooming. There's a sound archive of JFK having sex because the FBI thought the girl was a German spy and tried recording the conversation. Well, no conversation took place, but a lot of f***ing did. At Andrew Jackson's funeral, his pet parrot was removed because he would not stop cursing. Soldiers in WW1 would deliberately have sex with STD-ridden prostitutes so they could claim medical leave and be discharged to get out of the war. Ancient Roman women would use the oil and sweat scraped from gladiator skin as an aphrodisiac. Pope Alexander VI liked watching horses fuck. King Charles II had a wig made out of the pubic hair of his mistresses. King George IV attempted to recreate one of his own but died before he could complete it. How's this? Ancient Egyptians believed that the god of creation birthed the world by masturbating, and viewed it as a magical act. Mary Shelley, author of Frankenstein, frequently had sex in a graveyard, next to her own mother's grave. In the 1800s the middle finger was a sign of threatening someone with sex. Alexander Hamilton was the subject of the first celebrity sex scandal of the United States. Egyptian pharaoh PPI II covered his slaves in honey so the bugs wouldn't bother him. The ancient Greeks believed small penises were a sign of intelligence and cultural distinction, and only foolish men who were ruled by lust and sexual urges had large penises. That's why so many statues have tiny ones. In 1672, the Dutch hated their Prime Minister Johan de Witt so much that a mob lynched and partially ate him and his brother.
What was your oh hell nah moment in a relationship that made you leave? She stole my car, drove it from Washington to Las Vegas, and married a guy she met on Xbox Live so he could get residence. A guy she met on What Edit. Can't believe this is my most upvoted comment ever XD. We were having out at his house and he kept pressuring me to have sex. I was still a young, naive virgin, so I refused. We started watching a movie instead. I went to the bathroom and he stole my car keys. Once I was back on the couch he started trying to take off my clothes. I was scared so I grabbed my purse to leave. That's when he jingles my keys. He said I could have them back once I slept with him. I just ran outside and called my dad. My dad showed up and threatened to beat his ass if my keys weren't returned. Got my keys and got the fuck out. He continued to stalk me for the next 7 years. She crawled through my doggy door at 1:30 a.m., went through my phone, and then asked me why I was talking to another woman. Oh, I forgot to mention that I broke up with her a month earlier. We were not in a relationship when she pulled that stunt.
What's a harsh reality that everybody needs to hear? Some people will hurt you, and they won't care how you feel about it. You can become disabled unexpectedly at any point in your life. Make sure you're taking advantage of the abilities you have while you have them. Smiley face. Sometimes you're the bad guy. Holy shit, this blew up. You can love someone with all of your heart and not be loved back in the same way. Bad things can happen to good people. Good things can happen to bad people. It's unfair. It's life. Not everyone likes you. Just because someone is your family doesn't mean they have your best interests at heart. Nobody is coming to save you. You have to do it yourself. You don't realize the good, best times as they are happening.
Women, what is a surprising fact you discovered about men? That they are not criticizing women's bodies as much as women are led to believe, maybe by themselves or whomever is driving this culture. They are far more acceptant of how women look like naturally than women themselves. This was such a game changer for me. You guys can sit there and think about nothing. Our brain has a neutral gear. That 80% of the time they concretely mean exactly what they say, which is why only 20% of the time they understand what I'm saying. That if you show them exactly how much you appreciate them, they are more likely to be motivated to complete a task than if you nag them. The fact that men really are physically stronger. I always assumed this was purely based on size, but I'm a woman who works out every day, lifts weights, yoga, jogging/Peloton. My older brother doesn't exercise outside of an occasional hike. He's 4 inches taller than me and 10 pounds lighter than I am. I'm a dress size 0 or 2, he's faster than me on a hike, including backpacking, and can lift up heavier things. It makes me so angry. When they wake up, they just sit down and stare at nothing for a good 5 minutes.
What are teens today not ready to hear? You won't feel different when you're older, or have kids. You'll just be you. It's weird. As you get older you just keep realizing how dumb you were last year. Things will likely take significantly longer to achieve than you think. Everything you do as a teenager will be cringe to your children.
What's the most uncomfortable thing your significant other asked you to do during sex? Hooked up with a one-night stand in college after the bars. Things were going well and we were going at it like drunk idiots. She stopped and asked for a beer, so I got up and grabbed some from my mini fridge. Turned around and she was laying on her back with her legs spread and said, "I'm ready to be a mommy, take off the condom." Took me about 5 seconds of mental gymnastics to finally come to the conclusion that I'm not father material just yet. Said no and she took offense and got dressed and left. Saw her 6 to 8 months later on campus with a baby bump. Could have been me if I had a few more beers. Had a girlfriend who answered her cell while going down on me. Proceeded to have a full conversation with her mom whilst doing so. Took me a lot longer than normal to finish. What were they talking about? An upcoming, no pun intended, family get-together. "Honey, my mom's asking if you're coming."